talk to you about astrology, specifically the full moon in February. February's full moon, like every full moon, has got a tension between our emotions in the moon and our feeling and our thoughts in the sun. So let me talk to you a little bit first about the general full moon energy and then specifically the Virgo Pisces tension for the February full moon. Then we'll talk a little bit about what are some of the other planets doing that makes this Virgo full moon unique. And finally, I'll talk about what the full moon in Virgo on February 24th is helping us create and what we can do to make the rest of the months go better. So let's start with a general. What is a full moon? Full moon is when the moon and the sun are directly opposite each other. And why that matters is that they create a polarity or a tension between two extremes that we're forced to find a way to resolve. It has a lot more energy than a new moon, which happens when the moon and the sun are together. This tension that we're asked to resolve, if we resolve it, helps us embrace two very different parts of ourselves. The moon that represents our feelings and the sun that represents our thoughts. The moon that represents how we reflect and how we absorb what happens to the world and give back to it, and the sun that is our shining out, our self-expression, how we affect the world. The sun is the cause, the moon deals with the effect, and then leads to another cause. So that's in general what happens in every full moon. And what matters is what sign is the moon and what sign is the sun in for any given full moon is going to tell us where the tension is going to be. Are we in a tension of leadership? Are we in a tension of service? Are we in a tension about maintenance and stability? Well, for this full moon, with the moon in Virgo and the sun in Pisces, they're both in mutable signs. Virgo is mutable earth and Pisces is mutable water. So mutable signs are the ones that serve and communicate. They are the glue that holds the rest of the zodiac together. And so we are going to be looking at how do we communicate, how do we serve, how do we do the work that needs to be done. And there's two ways to do that service and that work in this full moon. We can do it in a practical way. We can help by details and definitions. We can strive for perfection. Or we can help in a Piscean way, in a watery way, where we're communicating feelings and dreams and intuition. You can see that the practical earth and the dreamy intuitive water create a real tension. So with the Virgo fixed earth, moon opposite the Virgo mutable moon opposite the Pisces mutable water, we're being challenged to figure out our service between the practical and the dreamy, between the emotional and the usable. And more precisely, Virgo asks us to seek perfection in a practical way. And Pisces asks us to dream, seek that perfection in a more idealism way. So we get the practical perfectionism versus the dreamy idealism. And that's a real challenge because always when we have dreams, we're being asked, well, how do we make them real? And this time, with the moon in Virgo, our emotions are going to be about getting it perfect. Our emotions are going to be about the details and the practical. We will long to get it right. We will long and want deeply to get the details just so, just the right amount, just the right color. Whether we're creating art or we're making dinner, wherever we're doing, we want all the details, all the practical parts just so. At least that's what our longing is for. But our brain knows there's idealism that we can't ever achieve. And so they're more excited in our thoughts about how do we handle that idealism? How do we grow into the most emotionally mature, the most idealistic, the most dreamy possibility? And anytime our dreams and our desire for perfection come in tension, we're in trouble. So, what do you do with it? You ask yourself some questions about how do I do both? How do I honor my need for perfection and my understanding that I have to have compassion? Because perfection is a Virgo thing and compassion is a Pisces thing. And it's a lot harder when you're longing for perfection and thinking about compassion. Now, that energy can bring some real powerful opportunities. Maybe some of you have dealt with this Virgo Pisces tension in other parts of your chart, and you know that the more perfect you demand of yourself, the less self-compassion you have. And so we can't tip all the way to perfection and give Virgo everything it wants and ignore the compassion and the emotional reality that Pisces asks us to do. Maybe you've even discovered that when you have compassion for yourself and demand less perfection, you're better able to have compassion for others. And so you're going to find this tension, each of you individually. Where do I strive for perfection? And how do I balance that with the need for compassion? The need to understand the idealism isn't achievable, and perfection isn't achievable, but both of them are wonderful goals. And so for each of us this month, when we get near the 24th of February, we are going to want perfection and understand the ideal of compassion. And we can make that balance when we give it to ourselves and then find ourselves better able to give it to others. The good news is that Virgo really understands the limited resources. And so we can say to ourselves, this is a great way with what I had to work with. And Virgo is willing to use just what's there. They are flexible about the details. They are good at making do and getting things to work. They count what they have. Virgo's the accountant, and it counts what it has and says this is the perfect way to use what we've got. And if you lean into that part of Virgo, you'll better handle the idealism and the emotional desires of compassion that you find in Pisces. So there's, in a not nutshell, but a great way to think about it. Ask yourself that question. How do I balance perfection and compassion? And obviously there's only two planets we've talked about, the sun and the moon. I know that the sun and the moon aren't technically planets, but long ago, 2,000 years ago, when we were working with the beginnings of Western astrology, planet meant travels the sky. And since in ancient Greece they thought that both the sun and the moon traveled across the sky because it looked like they did, they called them planets. So in astrology we tend to call everything planets. And we've talked now about the sun and the moon, the two most important planets or heavenly bodies that we've got. And now I want to talk to you a little bit about what the other planets in the sky are doing to affect this particular full moon. Remember, we get a Virgo full moon every year. It happens sometime in late February or early March, and that energy is unique every time, not because the sun and the moon are in different places, but because all the rest of the planets are in different places every time. So let's talk a little bit about where these other planets are. For starters, the sun is not alone in Pisces. The sun is very close to Mercury, which is frequently what happens. And so with Mercury in Pisces, we've got a lot more poetry and dreamy communication. You may find it easier to convey by music or art what you mean than being able to say it in words. And that appeals to the intellectual power that the sun has in Pisces. So as you're looking for compassion, play music that reminds you of compassionate. Play music that reminds you of your ideals. That music is a better way to communicate to yourself, to find a way to reach that place, to think better about the contention between perfection and compassion. There's another planet super close to the sun in Pisces, and that planet is Saturn. Saturn is not very comfortable in Pisces. Saturn is the planet of solid foundations, of the consciousness of the passage of time, of long, steady, slow improvements. And Pisces is an idealist and emotional sign that in its mutability doesn't work well with the solid foundations of Saturn. However, Saturn, while it's here in Pisces, is asking us to put a foundation to our dreams. So the idealism that the sun is inspiring, we have been working to find what's the solid basis that we can make our dreams built on. And so if you think of this moon as offering us an opportunity to find the foundations of the dreams and idealism, then the sun and Saturn will work together to balance that perfectionism that's coming from the Virgo moon. And unfortunately, that Virgo moon is all alone there on the other side of the chart. So Mercury and Saturn kind of bracket the sun during this Virgo full moon. There's one more planet that's way at the end of Pisces, and that's Neptune. Neptune is the planet of dreams and mysticism, and it is at its best in Pisces. But it is frequently foggy and dreamy and not able to bring clarity. So you may find that Saturn is struggling to find these foundations it wants, while Neptune just brings this idealism that says, I want it all to be good. So it's not really close to the sun, but it's there, and it's something we're going to have to face. So as we talk about what happens moving forward, one of the things that this full moon in Pisces offers us is the opportunity to think about the Saturnian practical foundations for the dreams we want, and how to balance the idealism that Neptune is going to just intensify and the practicalness that Saturn is struggling to find. That tension comes much later this year, but here's the foundation of it. Do the work now of finding a foundation that will work for your dreams, something that's good enough to build on, strong enough and real enough that it's a start. When you do that work now, you will find this later tension much easier to handle. Now, we've talked about the three planets that are joining the sun in Pisces. Again, they're Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune, although Neptune's not super close. And we've talked about the moon. So now we've covered 5 planets, and there's another 5 to talk about. 3 of them are together in Aquarius. So in Aquarius, for this year, most of it, Pluto will be at the very beginning degrees. We get to the end and Pluto's going to step back out and come in. But for February, Pluto is about 0 to 1 degree of Aquarius, and it is pushing us to look at technology and society and improvement. And in most of the month of February, Venus and Mars join Pluto, and that's going to bring a lot of passion and creativity. Remember, Mars is the planet of the masculine and feminine. Venus, when they come together, we've got creativity, like a man and woman coming together. We can express that in our sexuality. We can express that in a creativity that brings books or art or experimentation. These 3 Aquarius planets are challenging us to find where underneath the surface are the power that we can use to harness our creativity, to get that testosterone flowing from Mars, to get the oxytocin flowing with the pleasure of Venus, and make that work more practical, more idealistic, because Aquarius likes ideals. It is not the same kind of energy. It's a fixed sign, so it's more about maintenance and intelligence than it is about the mutable earth and water. But we've got that energy there pushing us on. And finally, our last 2 planets, Jupiter and Uranus, are both in Taurus. And Taurus is a fixed earth sign. And so that's Jupiter and Taurus has been spending, we're about halfway through it. Went in last summer. It will last until this May. Jupiter's been asking us to grow our practical. That energy will work really, really well with Virgo. And so this Jupiter in an earth sign is giving the bonus, giving some luck and abundance to Virgo's efforts to get practical accomplishments. And that's going to make this a lot easier than if Virgo was just alone with the moon there. We've got Jupiter and Taurus helping that Virgo moon find abundance, find luck. And Uranus in Taurus, Uranus, the planet of rebellion, is helping us break through, rebel against the old, to find innovative ways to make practical needs happen better. And so our emotional desire that comes with the moon in Virgo is feeding the energy that it's getting from Uranus and has been for years, that we can do this differently. We can find a better material. We can find a better way. We can find a Zoom. We can find something that makes our basics better. So let me just give you a quick review because that's a lot of information. On February 24th, we have got a full moon, which means the moon is in Virgo and the sun is in Pisces. Joining the sun in Pisces is Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune, adding a lot more idealism and emotionalness to this full moon. And then we have 3 planets in Aquarius, Pluto, Mars, and Venus, and 2 planets in Taurus, and those are Jupiter and Uranus. Together, we have more luck and abundance with the help from Jupiter and Taurus to make that Virgo moon a better able to handle the tension that is so outweighed by 4 planets in Pisces. Now that I've talked a little bit about where all the planets are for this February full moon, let me tell you just a little bit about what's coming. I've already mentioned that Saturn and Neptune will get close to each other this year, and so we'll be facing where does the foundation and the practical meet the fantasy that is so strong right now. Work we do now to help resolve that foundation will make that tension of Saturn and Neptune coming close to each other a lot easier to handle. They don't meet each other, but they come within a 10-degree range, and we're going to feel the impacts. The other thing that's coming is that March's full moon is a lunar eclipse. And that lunar eclipse is going to bring some shocks. It's going to bring some challenges. We are going to have to face some questions about where am I original and where am I communal? Where am I pushing what I need and where am I connected to a whole and trying to bring them along? There's going to be some shocks when that happens in the March full moon lunar eclipse. And when that comes on March 25th, the work you've done about taking care of your own dreams and your own emotions, finding the tension between perfection and compassion, will make the shocks that March, this eclipse, is bringing so much easier to handle. So do the work in February. Batten down the hatches. This actually is a great time to settle some details and manage the foundation, the structure, what is your goal? Because we're going to have some shocks about how we are with ourselves and our partners when we have an Aries-Libra tension for a full moon, and we'll be very grateful you did this work. So, thank you for joining me as we talked about February's full moon and got a taste about where the rest of the planets were and what's coming in March. Please find another video from me about the March eclipse and the April solar eclipse. We've got a full moon March eclipse and an April new moon eclipse, and those are going to be really powerful. So in this last full moon, before we start eclipse season, I urge you to get these things settled, get the work done that you need to feed your dreams. Not achieving perfection, but finding it good enough that you've still got compassion and an emotional bandwidth to handle with resilience the things that March will throw. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again. Thank you.